younger, you want high DHT levels. It's responsible for the secondary masculine sex characteristics developing. And that's good. But as you get older, you don't want it because it can cause acne, it can cause hair loss, and prostate enlargement. So you want to protect the prostate by not having too much DHT present. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey, this is the Game Triple H from the WWE. You're watching RxMuscle.com, the truth in bodybuilding.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Whatever's on your mind, bodybuilding, non-bodybuilding, be it diet, be it training, be it supplementation, be it IFBB pros, news, of course, the Arnold Classic in less than 1 month. We have a ton of questions to get to, so let's get right into them. The first two questions on the show, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, a lot of people, coaches say the most important meals with carbs are pre-workout, intra-workout, and post. All right, I'm going to have to try to regurgitate this one. This is literally what it says. A lot of people, coaches said the most important meals with carbs are pre-workout, intra-workout, and post-workout.
I got it. Yeah.
All right, you got it.
And so what do they want me to comment on that?
Yeah. Yeah. The question is, do you agree with that?
Okay. I mean, look, if you're eating carbs in your diet, meaning that you're doing a protein, carb, whatever, fat diet, off season, trying to grow, whatever the case may be, there's carbs, okay, you can think of as gasoline in your car. And I've given this analogy before, okay? You don't just put gas in every time, you go decide to drive the car. You fill the tank up and the tank's full and you can use it, okay? So whether you eat, your carbs at 3 meals out of the day or you eat them out of 6 meals out of the day, okay, and you're spacing them out, it doesn't make a difference because the tank that holds the carbs, your glycogen stores in your muscles and in your liver, is a given amount. So it doesn't matter when you eat them. But if you only eat them at 3 times out of the day, the times you don't eat them, you're not going to feel so great. So there's no sense in limiting to certain meals. You're better off just spacing them out. So if you eat 200 grams or 210 grams of carbs per meal, and you want to spread them out over 6 meals, you just divide it, up and do a little bit at each meal. Sometimes guys don't want to eat, or women don't want to eat carbs right before bed. All right, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But there's no reason to go huge gaps with no carbs and then all of a sudden post-workout slam 100 grams of carbs, or have 100 grams of carbs for breakfast and then the meal you eat 2 hours later have 0 carbs. It doesn't serve any purpose, and it doesn't make you utilize the carbs better. If anything, it makes you utilize them worse. Because every time you eat carbs, it does amp your metabolism up a little bit, and it raises blood sugar, which is good because now you have energy, fuel in the system. So, off season, it doesn't make sense to limit them. Pre-contest, same thing. If you're eating less carbs, let's say you only eat 100 grams of carbs a day. Now, obviously, it might be hard to break those up now, but you might do 20 grams over 5 meals. You're going to feel way better than if you just do it in 2 meals or 3 meals, because you're going to go big gaps of time where you're not eating carbs. Even though you're eating protein, you're going to feel crappy. So I'm a big believer in spreading out, the carbohydrate intake evenly throughout the day to keep your blood sugar more stable. When you're not eating carbs and you're on a ketogenic type plan, like, that I might suggest, my ketogenic diet, it doesn't matter. You're not eating carbs. Your blood sugar is stable because your brain is using ketones for fuel. So I don't know why some people will say, oh, only eat carbs twice a day or 3 times a day. Take your amount you eat for the day and divide it up evenly. It's the same thing. And as a matter of fact, I think your body will utilize it better.
Second question, again, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. If EQ anxiety is a real thing, is it from elevated HCT levels or low GABA levels?
I've been getting this question a lot. I don't really believe that one particular anabolic steroid is going to cause anxiety more than another. Except, personally, I think that the androgenic content of a steroid will dictate how much anxiety you get. Like Trenbolone definitely causes more anxiety than, say, Anavar would. Trenbolone causes more anxiety than even testosterone because it's higher in androgens than testosterone. We know that. Why EQ, which is not that highly androgenic, would cause more anxiety, okay, than, say, testosterone doesn't make sense logically. Now, whether there's a GABA depletion component here, I don't really see that. I've looked it over. Matter of fact, I've researched this a little bit because people have asked me about it, and I don't really see a connection. I think it's circumstantial at best. However, the reason why I have GABA in my nighttime sleep aid, Somalize, okay, is because it works. GABA is a neurotransmitter that relaxes the brain, okay? And taken at night, it will help you fall asleep, especially if you're a person whose brain spins a lot at night because you're thinking about all the things you got to do the next day or all the stuff that just went on that day. GABA is really good at relaxing you. Melatonin is not really a relaxer. It's more of a keep you in deep sleep type of thing. So my Somalize sleep product hits you with GABA first, which relaxes you, and then the melatonin, once you fall asleep, keeps you asleep and keeps you in a deeper sleep. And that's the whole mechanism. I sell another product that's not mine. It's called Euphoria on my DavePalumbo.com website. That's something you can take during the day for relaxation, and it includes several different forms of GABA with different modifications. A friend of mine makes the product. It's a really good product. A lot of guys who have anxiety take that rather than get addicted to like Xanax or Valium or Ativan or something like that. You might want to try that. So there is a component. Do I think EQ causes more anxiety because it blocks GABA receptors or it reduces GABA output in your body? Probably not. But if you happen to feel that way, take a little GABA during the day. I like to save the real pure GABA for night. Try the Euphoria product during the day if you have anxiety before you have to go to a prescription med that you might get addicted to. These two questions came from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. If you guys want to download that, it's $29 a month. You get me as your coach in your back pocket. I answer all your questions. I answer, matter of fact, everyone's questions and answers in an open forum on the app, so everyone sees everyone's questions and answers. I do a Q&A video, just like Ask Dave, specifically for the app members every single week, comprised of the best questions. We put a workout up every single week. So if you like to vary your workouts, you can try the new workout. And everything I've ever written and every video I've ever done is in the app as well. So it's a really good resource. Check that out.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us there, the handle is official_RxMuscle. If you're watching us here on YouTube for the first time, we welcome you. We ask that you subscribe below, hit the notification bell. If you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. And as always, we appreciate all of your support. Let's go to Gabe Swole. Tren, is it absolutely necessary for contest prep?
Let me just make this clear. Nothing is absolutely necessary, okay, for contest prep. Are there certain drugs that are desirable? Yeah, but nothing's necessary. I have some guys who take Trenbolone and they get hiccups, they get indigestion, they want to throw their food up. These are things that Trenbolone can do. And it's usually a dose-related thing, but some people have I'm not going to say what it is, but I have a very close friend who, no matter how little Trenbolone they took, it completely gave them diarrhea and their digestive system was completely messed up. So I said, look, you can't use it. And he didn't use it. And he looked great, believe me, at all his shows he did. You would never know. So there's no one drug that's irreplaceable. There's so many different things out there. You really think Trenbolone is going to make that much of a difference when you're on testosterone, Masteron, Winstrol, and there's so many drugs. So no, you don't need to take Trenbolone. If it bothers you and it raises your blood pressure where it's going to put your health in danger, just don't take it.
Bilal Hamid, if one had no access to aromasin or arimidex for an AI, could they use Nolvadex? If so, what dose?
Just to distinguish, a lot of you guys who watch the shows are pretty advanced, but some people are newbies coming in and they don't really know the difference. But, aromasin, arimidex, Femara, those are aromatase inhibitors. What they do is they block the enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen, which is a nice way to kind of inhibit, estrogen in the body, because you're actually blocking its formation. So you're preventing your body from losing testosterone and converting it to estrogen. In the old days, before these aromatases were so readily available and they weren't really around, we used Nolvadex, or also known as tamoxifen. And what that is, it's an estrogen receptor blocker. What it does is it binds to the estrogen receptor and doesn't allow estrogen to do its job. So it essentially does the same thing as arimidex, but what it's not doing is it's not stopping the conversion of testosterone into estrogen. So you're still lowering your testosterone, raising your estrogen. You're just blocking the receptor. If you can't get an aromatase inhibitor, Nolvadex is the next best thing. You have to take 10 milligrams usually every 12 hours. It's a 12-hour pill. That seems to be the effective dose of it. But it seems like Nolvadex never really quite works as well as arimidex. But once again, it gets the job done. It got the job done for us in the 90s when there was no aromatase inhibitors available. So, like I said, it's pretty good actually if you have gynecomastia, because it blocks those receptors in the breast tissue and it doesn't let the estrogen get there. Sometimes guys will use the Nolvadex and arimidex if they have really bad gyno. Obviously, my solution for bad gyno is get it removed, But if you can't afford it or it's just not in the cards right now, those are the next best thing.
Let's go to Troy Buchanan. Dave, do you have an enlarged prostate protocol? If not, can you talk a little bit more about it? I think that's something that isn't talked about enough.
Yeah, I agree. My father had a prostate issue, and I was always like, oh, I don't want to get an enlarged prostate. And I found out from getting my DNA tested that I'm a very, very high converted to DHT, which I'm sure my father was too. Meaning that our testosterone, when we produce testosterone, a lot of it gets converted to DHT. Not as much to estrogen, a lot to DHT. And I can give you evidence of that because I take a DHT blocker, finasteride, which is a prescription drug, which is really strong. I've been taking it for 25 years now, or there, but yeah, probably 25 years now. And I wasn't on any drugs, not even HRT, for 7 years. And my DHT was just in the normal range. So imagine how much DHT I convert not being on any drugs, okay, being completely natural and taking a DHT blocker, and I'm still not low. I'm like normal. So and then when I got my DNA tested, I found out that I'm a very big converter. I have a very high conversion to DHT, which is probably, why maybe when I was younger, I had a very aggressive and I was a good athlete. I mean, because when you're younger, you want high DHT levels. It's responsible for the secondary masculine sex characteristics developing. And that's good. But as you get older, you don't want it because it can cause acne, it can cause hair loss, and prostate enlargement. So you want to protect the prostate by not having too much DHT present. So the question is, do you go to a prescription drug like, dutasteride or finasteride, or do you go a slightly less route? Because you don't want to lower DHT too much because then you lose your sex drive. So you want to just keep it in normal range. So what I tell guys to do first is if you go for blood work and DHT is a little high, or you're having DHT-like side effects, acne, hair thinning, prostate irritation, try my Testalize product. We have a really high potency saw palmetto extract in there that works almost like finasteride, but it doesn't have as strong an effect. So you're not going to get any side effects from it. It'll blunt the production of DHT. And that usually is enough to correct. I put 15-year-old girls on it who have bad acne, and it completely clears them up. I put Chris Aceto on it, whose hair started to thin, and he said his hair thickened right up. So it works, and it's not too severe. If, however, you're one of these people that takes that and then you're still having problems and you go for blood work and your DHT is still high, you probably need to maybe take the next step and try, finasteride, maybe 1 milligram, 2.5 milligrams a day. The thing is with finasteride, when you start it, you have to stay on it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the protective effects. And getting your DNA tested is not a bad idea. Look, I sell these DNA kits on my DavePalumbo.com website. You get the kit in the mail. you swab your cheek or whatever they have you do, and you send it off to the lab, and then they'll call you and they'll send you all your results. They test 1 million different genes in your body, and they'll tell you exactly what these genes do, what you're good at, what you're not good at, so that you'll know. Like I knew I didn't digest lactose, but I didn't realize I have zero ability to digest lactose because my enzyme is completely deficient in my body. And you learn these things about yourself, and it just gives you more data so that you can eat the right foods, take the right supplements. I found out I don't methylate vitamin B12, so I have to take, a methylated form of it, which luckily is I had put into demineralize already, so that's not a problem. But these are things that you're not going to even know about yourself. So it's always good to find out. And especially in this day and age, you can do it. The technology is there. Find out what your DNA is.
So you actually answered the next question that I was going to ask from Nico Cantemir regarding finasteride to avoid prostate enlargement, and if that becomes a lifetime contract. So as you said, you need to stay on it.
It will. So try the Testalize first. I'm telling you that's a better option at this point.
Let's go to Dwayne B. 52 years old. My doctor won't prescribe TRT. Says my levels are too normal, so we won't do anything. He told me to take Nugenix. Your thoughts on over-the-counter test boosters, or should I just go on a real testosterone cycle?
Whether you do a real cycle or not, that's really a personal decision that I can't make for you. But most test boosters over the counter really don't do very much. My approach when I made Testalize, and I talked about it a little earlier, is that I found that it's not that guys didn't produce enough testosterone. It's that their bodies converted the testosterone that they were making into other things, especially as we get older. As we get older, we aromatize more testosterone into estrogen, and we convert more testosterone to DHT. So if you have 100 units of testosterone being produced every day in your body, and that's ideal, but you're losing 25 to estrogen and 25 to DHT, you're only left with 50 that your body can actually use. So now you feel low, but you're really not low because your body is producing enough. It's just converting it to other stuff. And how do you know if it's converting it to other stuff? You go for blood work and you check your DHT levels and you check your estrogen levels. And if that's the case, then you can correct that. Okay. My Testalize product really reduces DHT production, which is going to boost your keep your testosterone higher. And it doesn't inhibit the conversion of testosterone to estrogen, but it flushes extra estrogen out of the body, so you don't get the estrogenic side effects of it. Aromatase inhibitors are illegal in terms of like selling for use in nutritional supplements. So instead, I use an ingredient that binds up indole-3 carbonyl and methyl. I can't remember the other one. Indole-3 carbonyl and diindomethane. So those bind estrogen and pull it out of the body. So my test booster not only has the ingredients that will boost test, it also has the ingredients that prevent its conversion to other things. And that's what makes a good testosterone product, because I call it a testosterone optimizer because it's optimizing your natural levels. However, is that going to be enough? I don't know. You try that first and you see how you feel. Most people feel a lot better on it and they say, you know what, I'm good. Especially if you don't have super low testosterone, which it seems like this person doesn't have. If you want to get the performance boost of testosterone, that's a different story. And in that case, you might look into a clinic that's a little more, rather than your family doctor who's never going to prescribe it for you, you go to a clinic like TitanMedicalCenter.com who will prescribe testosterone if you don't have to be zero for them to prescribe it for you. And so they're going to be a little more liberal in giving you testosterone based on, your symptoms and everything like that. So I would approach that first. And then down the road, if you want to do a real cycle and get into bodybuilding competition because you want to grow, that's your own personal decision. But these are the steps I would take, first. First, try a product like Testalize, see how that works. If you get results, good. If you don't, then you go to a place like Titan, you get, hormone replacement, see how you feel on that. If you want to go beyond that, then you make that decision.
Let's take a training related question. We do get this question here and there, but again, with new audiences, transient audiences, good to have a refresher on your take on things. From Maz Maria Fitness, your best exercise to add thickness to your back.
That was always a challenge. I always wanted to have a bigger back because, looking at Dorian was always the physique I looked up to the most. So, I had the legs. My wheels were always there. My arms came up a lot. Shoulders came up a lot, as I got bigger. and my back was good, but I always wanted it bigger back, wider back, and so Dorian was really big on rows, bent rows, and I always felt that those worked well. And it's funny because I always handled a lot less weight than a lot of guys did, but I think a lot of guys were cheap when they use that because they think it's a weight thing. It's really not a weight thing. If you don't feel it in your back, then you're really not getting the benefits. Like to me, 225 on rows at 300 pounds, really, I felt that. I mean, I could do 315 and I would usually go up to that for maybe 3 or 4 reps, but really, I really felt my best sets at 225, 265 on bent rows. And I would one day I would do undergrip, one day I would do overgrip. I always wore straps. Straps are really important with back because if you're lifting heavy, there's no way your grip is gonna be able to hold that bar. And I always loved one arm rows for the lower lats, those lower lat insertions. I feel that really, really works well. And, I did pull downs because, for width, for the parts of the lats that flare out. So you can't just target one part of your back and not the others. And I always did deadlifts because I wanted the thickness, the girthiness to my traps all the way down to my spinal erectors. So it's a comprehensive pull downs, rows, one arm rows to get the lower lats, and then deadlifts for thickness down the middle. Because you not only want a wide back, but you want a dense back as well. And that worked to me. And you know what? You take that formula and you repeat it every single week. You can vary the exercises a little bit. You can vary the tempo, how much weight you use. But at the end of the day, you got to put the work in. There's no magic machines that are going to make your back grow. Free weights really, really work the best.
Let's go to D. Adams' question about fiberlyze. If I'm doing intermittent fasting, do I count my fiberlyze drink I've had before bed as a meal?
Fiber is not absorbable, so it's going to go right through your system. Now, if you're doing intermittent fasting for purposes of giving your digestive system rest, then you probably should do the fiberlyze within the window of when you eat, okay? And I don't know if that window before bed is still open at that point. If you're doing intermittent fasting for weight loss because you don't want to absorb any of the food and it has nothing to do, which I don't think is a good way to do it. But if that's what you're doing, then you can have the fiberlyze before bed because you're not absorbing any of the fiberlyze. So it's not taxing anything. It's just making your colon push waste out of your body. So it depends what you do in the intermittent fasting for. I still don't understand why bodybuilders do intermittent fasting other than maybe for 3 weeks out of the year, just to detoxify themselves. But on a regular basis, not smart. And the reason it's not smart is that the body can't store protein. So if you eat all your protein within the first 8 hours of the day, and then you don't have any protein the rest of those hours, rest of those 24 hours, you're going to be protein deficient because your body can't store protein. It can't save it for later. So what's your body going to do when it needs protein to continue repairing the muscle tissue that you broke down earlier in the day? It's going to cannibalize. It's going to use up its own protein, muscle. It's going to break down muscle tissue to get the amino acids to repair the other muscle tissue. It's ludicrous. It's foolish. Intermittent fasting is not good for building muscle and maintaining muscle. Might be good, okay for health and for longevity, but not for building, repairing muscle, especially to get ready for a show. So I don't know why bodybuilders do it, but you know what? I can talk until I'm blue in the face, and some people will listen, some people won't.
Cool one here from Aman Kumar. If you want to give one or two on both ends of the spectrum, your easiest, and I don't know if you want to go there, but most difficult clients you've worked with in the past.
Aman Kumar is my most difficult client. I'm kidding, Aman. I love Aman. Aman and I have been together for many years, and he's coming back from a quad tear, quad rupture, and he's doing great. And I love the guy. But no, I've had some difficult clients. Some people are, combative when I first start working with them because they have a certain way of doing things, and then they hire me, and then I kind of change around. And a lot of people are really open to what I tell them because they're like, holy mackerel, I didn't know I wasn't doing this, I wasn't doing that right, and they love it. Some people are like, well, this is how I do things. And I'm like always wondering, well, why would hire a trainer if you already have a way of doing things and you think you're doing it right? The problem is people hire a trainer because they're not getting good results with what they're doing. And then when you try to change what they're doing, sometimes they get kooky about it, and they start getting like upset about it because you're disrupting their schedule, so to speak. But that's what it takes if your body isn't changing, then something is wrong. Okay. And so if someone like myself comes in, or any trainer, and starts changing things around, you should be excited about that, because you should be like, you know what? Maybe I wasn't doing things right. Even though it fit into my schedule, maybe I was doing things wrong. And that's why I hit a plateau, and why I'm not doing things. And especially when people would inform, like when I first met up with Scott Connolly from Metrics, and he started giving me insights into protein metabolism, how much protein I should be taking in, how I should take it, what forms. I was fascinated, because I was like, you know what? I thought I knew what I was doing, but I really didn't. And he made me better at what I was doing. And he made me be able to think about, protein intake and how necessary it was, and how frequently it was necessary, in a different way I never thought about before. And it changed my physique. So you have to have an open mind sometimes. So some clients that are the most difficult turn out to be my best clients, because they ask questions, they challenge me, but when I answer their questions and I explain the science of what's going on, they embrace that. And so there's only been, I think, 2 people I've ever given their money back to, because by my own, I wanted to give them their money back, because I just didn't want to work with them. And one person has got, I think he's probably got mental illness. Another person was I just didn't hit it off with them, whatever. Didn't do things the way they wanted. And that's fine. As a coach, if you train, look, I've trained thousands of people. When you train enough people, you're going to have some people that just, you don't mesh with, and that's fine. If I do work on your program, this is another thing, it's kind of a side note, should you give clients back their money if they're not happy? And this is the way I see it. Let's say someone signs up with you for a year, okay? And you write them a program, and you go back and forth, a few times, maybe for a week or 2, and they decide, you know what, I don't want to work with you. Or you decide you don't want to work. If I decide I don't want to work with you, I give you all your money back. If you decide you don't want to work with me, then I have to be paid something for, the work that I've done so far. And so I usually just charge them $200 for which would be what I would charge to write a program for someone. And then I give them back the balance of the thing, because no hard feelings. Customers, you made a decision you're not happy with, that's fine, but I got to be paid for what I've done so far. And I think that's usually fair, and people usually don't have a problem with that. And that's my policy. Some people don't give any money back, and that's fine. If that's your policy, once you pay me, you don't get your money back, then that's fine. I've had people who came to me and said, we worked together a month, I'm sick, I can't, I'm pregnant or whatever. And you know what? They want their money back. And I'm like, we already worked together for a month. I'll give you a rain check. So when you're done, after you have your baby, you breastfeed, whatever, and you're ready to come back, I'll give you full credit for your whole year that you paid for. You don't even worry about the month. And people are usually very happy about that, so it's tough. It's business, it's a business at the end of the day, so you have to have your own rules. The best thing to do is put them up on your website so people know the rules ahead of time.
So let's just go back to the original question. So I'll rephrase it. If you had to go with one, you're of the high profile pros that you've trained, easiest to deal with.
Oh, easiest to deal with? I don't know.
Where would Tony Freeman fall on the spectrum?
He was kind of easy, because he believed in what I was telling him, but Tony also knew his body really well. So there was a lot of him, and I had to collaborate a lot on what we thought the best method was. So I wouldn't say he was the easiest, because I had to work to make sure that we got him in the best shape. He was a pleasure to work with. I loved working with him because he had such a beautiful physique, and the results were great. I had a lot of Guy Sistonino, easiest person to work with, because he was the most neurotic, because he was so intent on getting the best desired results. But he listened he was like a machine. If I told him do this, he did this. That. So in that sense, I like working with people like that a lot. There are people who are difficult clients, but sometimes they're the most pleasurable, because they appreciate what you're doing more than anything. I've worked with so many people. I can't even. I'm probably forgetting a million people. I've worked with so many people. To be honest with you, the women are usually better than the men most of the time, but that's only because they're very appreciative of what you do. I always feel like most of my women clients buy me gifts. They thank you gifts. They send cards and stuff like that. So, just men don't think about that. I don't send anything birthday cards. I barely remember anyone's birthday. So women are just more thoughtful in general. So, I can't say in the history of all my coaching that I've done, maybe 1 or 2 people rubbed me the wrong way the whole time. I really, really have gotten lucky with really, really great clients, to be honest with you.
We'll take one more question. I know you have a whole slate of shows to record.
Yeah.
This one is right up the alley for not only myself, but probably I would have to say 35% of the people watching, even if they want to admit it or not. But the question is this: any diet, training, recovery tips for 37-year-old natural, and in his words, skinny fat, who has very slow progress towards building muscle? So essentially, for the population of the United States of America, what would you suggest? Somebody who's working, putting in the work, but natural, just not seeing the results, not seeing the progress. Generally, what would you advise them?
I would say that most people go to the gym and do the work at the gym. Now, granted, some people don't work out that well. Their exercise form is not great. But I think the failure in most people is that they don't eat consistently enough what they need to. And that's why the great bodybuilders are the ones that are the most disciplined. Now, if it's not that important in your life, to make sure you hit your 5-6 meals a day, every single day, never miss, and eat the right foods, then you have to be willing to accept mediocrity in terms of your results. If you want the absolute best results, in other words, make the most gains when you're leaning out, lose the most fat, in the shortest period of time, you gotta be strict. And you know what? If your friend comes over and you feel guilty about not eating a piece of pizza with them, then then the diet's not that important to you. I was talking to a woman the other day. She's like, "Oh, I don't want to disappoint my friends." I said, "Well, you're disappointing yourself instead, and then you feel guilty the next day that you ate junk food with them, because just so you can be social with them." So it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is to look your absolute best, then you have to create a schedule and you have to follow it, and you can't look for excuses why you can't do it. The only excuse should be absolute emergency. Something happened that you can't control. But if you're using it, my son had a birthday, so I had a piece of birthday cake. Well, you know what? I can eat birthday cake all day long. And you know what? When my kids have birthday cake, I don't eat it because I don't want the sugar in my diet. It's just not something I want to do. I'm not insulting my children by not eating. They can eat the cake, and everyone else can eat that. I'm not telling anyone else. It's not like I'm saying to my kids, you can't have cake. It's no good for you. I choose not to eat cake. Okay. It's not that important to me. Okay. So when people say, "Dave, you're so lean, how do you do it?" Yeah, well, I have a good metabolism, but I also don't eat junk. I eat very good foods. I try to eat the healthiest foods possible. I take my nutritional supplements. I work out. I try to take pride in what I'm doing. And that's because it's important for me to look good. If I'm going to give advice to people, I feel I should be the model of what, the physique people want to look at, So people say, "Hey, Dave's going to be 55 years old next week." He looks great for his age. You know what? He's lean. He's got muscle. He's not too big. He obviously transitioned away from bodybuilding, but he still looks like he works out. And that's the kind of look I want when I'm 55. So you got to be, a model for what you do, and you got to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. I can't, if I walked around as a fat slob just because I want to eat cake all day long, and then try to give nutritional advice, I feel like I'd be like a fraud almost. So that's just me, because that's my mentality. Other people don't give a shit what people think about them. They want to eat the cake. They want to eat the cake, but don't go around saying, "I want to lose weight." I don't know why I can't lose weight. Well, because you're not sticking to the diet, strictly. If you have a 12-week diet you're doing, then for 12 weeks, don't find excuses not to do it. When the 12 weeks is up, I tell people, act like you're in prison. When the 12 weeks is up and they let you out of jail, you can do whatever you want. But if you want to get the physique you want, you have to suffer and you have to be disciplined for that time period.
On that note, that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. A reminder, if you haven't already done so, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. All new episode of Heavy Muscle Radio, yesterday's episode of After Hours, and then, of course, tomorrow, all new episode of Iron Rage with Lee Priest. For Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.